Hey, Facebook, what's going on? It's Reagan, and we are now live. It's Friday, so happy Friday to everybody tuning in. We appreciate it. We hope you guys are doing great and hope you have big plans for the weekend. So today our Doc Talk is going to be about allergies and the war against your nose. We did a poll, and everybody wanted to talk about allergies, so that's what we did. So anyway, here we go, guys. It's our live Q&A with our own doctor, Dr. Goffey. Let me bring him into the stream. Oh, what's up, Doc? How are you, man?
Hello. Hi, everybody.
How are you guys doing? I hope y'all guys are doing well. Doc, I hope you're having a good Friday.
So far, so good. So far, so good. My kid had a stomach bug, so...
Hey, that seems to be going around a lot right now. I mean, a lot of the kids were out here in Lumberton this week, so that doesn't sound fun. I'm trying to dodge.
Thanks to working in the emergency room, I have a lot of immunity, but I kind of bring everything home, so my kids are getting it through me usually.
Right. Yeah, if I'm going to get sick, that's one thing I don't want. I don't want to be running to the bathroom, so that's no fun, man. So I was telling our audience watching that, we did the poll and everybody wants to talk about allergies. So I've gotten some questions together to ask you for our live Q&A here.
Let's do it.
So number one, a person asked, is there a hereditary factor involved with getting allergies? Is there anything to do with genes or genetic things?
Realistically, a lot of things now, a lot of things are, hypothetically genetic, right? I mean, depression, for instance, your likelihood of any, to be familiar, whether it's genetic or whether we found the genetic marker or not, right? But, it's also environmental, right? I mean, if the whole family has it and, they have a bunch of cats or, the house is specific. I mean, it's just more likely if you're in the same environment to also get it.
So, okay. So it is possible. Okay.
It's very possible. Yeah.
All right. So I also keep hearing, what is a penicillin allergy that I keep hearing people refer to? What is that? What's a penicillin allergy?
Yeah, I mean, penicillin actually is kind of like, a huge topic, right? I mean, it's the first antibiotic ever, right? Mm-hmm. And I think we're still in a generation where I think it was 1928. 1928 was when it was kind of discovered, and it was a mold, okay? I mean, literally it was a mold. It's an interesting story. I guess I'll share it. Why not? So Alexander Fleming, right, who kind of found it, he was on vacation. So this is going to make us feel real good when we all say we don't want to do anything. This guy he started studying penicillin on vacation. So he was going to grow some bacteria in a petri dish. And when he came back, a couple days into the area, he found that he left one of the caps open and there was a mold in it, right? And then none of the bacteria grew around the mold, right? So, please forgive me, I forget exactly. It's like penicillinus, some fungi, or it's a fungus, a mold fungus. So, he studied it. So it was in 1942 back then it wasn't really FDA. This was in London. They tried it on a meningitis case that was just killing people left and right in London. And he successfully cured somebody with this kind of extract, right? And he won a Nobel Peace Prize. It wasn't just him. I think it was a couple other guys. It was like 5 or 6 people that won a Nobel Peace Prize later for fighting it. But it was revolutionary because, I mean, we got it to our soldiers first, right? So a big military buff. That's why this story's big. They started to get penicillin pouches, right? And if anything happened, any injury or anything like that, they would just smack it on themselves. Almost like a morphine injection, right? They kind of had both. So the reason why I say that is because, so imagine this, right? Like founded in 1928, went into production, kind of 40s, so there's a lot of us, between 40 and 80. I mean, we're young, right? And we were told we had this penicillin allergy. But advancements in modern medicine, I mean, is it really the penicillin, or is it the fact that it was not exactly the cleanest antibiotic? It's not like today where you get a pill, right? So a lot of us are told as a kid, 80s, 70s, 80s, that we're allergic to penicillin because we had a reaction. And I will tell you that sometimes there's only some bacteria that people say, I'm allergic to penicillin. It's only treated with penicillins, right? I mean, it's the only basically drug that works for it. And I would say I've done that probably 200-300 times, and never once that I give the penicillin to, you give it at a slower dose to kind of sensitize them, they ever had a reaction. Now, some people really truly, I'm not telling you to erase that from your allergy sheet. But what I mean by that is, like, there might be a time where you do have a serious infection and they have to give you a penicillin. Whenever I say it, I guess it's kind of appropriate now that the new Top Gun's coming out. When it was, I'm going to hit the brakes, I'm going to fly right by, right? You remember that saying? And that's kind of when I tell people, hey, we're going to do a trial of penicillin. They're like, I'm allergic to penicillin. They're like, you're going to do what? Yeah.
So there's a big a fear associated with it. I guess some people think they've had some reactions in the past.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's important, penicillin specifically, other meds, is different, but it's not your traditional allergy. An allergy are serious, especially to antibiotics, because they stay in your system for a long time. So that you can get, closure of the throat and things like that. But we have ways.
So 2 things. Is it okay if I eat molded cheese or moldy bread or what?
Probably not a good idea.
But no. So what's, just curious, since we're talking about it, what's the number one reason you'd give somebody penicillin? What symptoms would they have or problems?
Well, I mean, strep throat. I mean, that's strep meningitis, strep throat. I mean, the best drug of choice, period, is penicillin. Right. I worked at community hospitals. Syphilis, is pretty much only treated with penicillin. That's it. I mean,
so it's still needed. It's still used a lot.
It is. Yeah, it's huge. I mean, there's a lot. I mean, now, penicillin and quinolones for diabetics that get Pseudomonas, which is a very common thing for diabetics. If you're allergic to Levaquin or Cipro, the only choice is those 2. I mean, it's 3 drugs that work for it, and that's it. And if you're allergic to those 2 classes, you basically can die of a simple urinary tract infection.
So let's say if people have had those reactions, or they think they've had those reactions in the past, what can you do to help them get, I guess, sensitized to taking it? What would you do?
Yeah, so I mean, I think first the big thing is, if you're somebody who's really curious and you were told and you don't know for sure, they have what's called a prick test that you can get, like an allergy test. And it's not just for that. I mean, it's for every allergy, right? Like you said, I'm allergic to cats or dogs. They almost make like squares on your back.
Oh, I remember as a kid, I still have nightmares about it. I didn't know what my mom was doing to me.
Yeah.
Come on, Mom, what's going
on here? But you can do it as an adult, and I think it's important. I mean, if you don't remember, you got this list of allergies, and you've been avoided penicillin your whole life. I mean, probably a good idea. You don't have to do the 200 allergy tests, but I think that's a big one to check. But in general, what we do is we micro dose it, and we found that almost everybody can actually take penicillin if you micro dose it. And then it goes up, and then the sensitization kind of goes away.
So guys, just take a test, like you said, if you're curious. That's a great way to find out if you're allergic to it. But since we're talking about that prick test that I had when I was a kid that I freaked out about, seeing all those needles come in when I was little wasn't fun. Um,
Yeah.
but do they still give allergy shots? Is that still a thing? Do people still take those to try to help with their allergies?
Yeah. No, listen, allergies, I've said it before. This year, this past year and a half, right, has been a little crazy, especially ever since the freeze, right?
Hmm.
We're all used to saying, when it was January, and I would tell people, it's like, there's a lot of pollen. People are like, no, there's not, and I'm like, well, when was the last time it's middle of January and you're seeing the flower beds like not frozen, right?
Right.
You have to remember that last time that we had a freeze, we basically bombarded Florida, Georgia, Mississippi, Alabama. They had like no plants left. Texas people bought them all up, right?
Right.
And so we have plants that just are actually growing year round. Now it's not traditional, where your black car is green when you wake up in the morning of Texas pollen, but we had it in the time that the Texas pollen wasn't really around.
Yeah.
So your body's weak, you're immune. I mean, I had a stuffy nose for a solid year. I mean, it was bad this year.
Yeah. My blue car looks yellow most days. It's coming down so much. So
Yeah.
It's there for sure.
Especially Lumberton. I mean, we're a pretty wooded area. I mean,
Yeah.
it's very fertile. I mean, it rains. You see it there. I mean,
That's probably one reason it's so bad where I'm at. I'm surrounded by trees out in the country of Lumberton here. But so somebody had asked, is there such thing as just seasonal allergies?
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. I mean, so even asthmatics, for instance, or COPD, there's always something that's worse at a certain time. Even arthritis. I mean, in the cold. I mean, some people, and just like any injury, right? Some people are like, oh, ice works for me. I put ice on my body, I feel terrible. So heat is good for me. But absolutely. I mean, there's always something that you do, right, that it could be a trigger, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
right.
If it's freezing outside and there's no baseball, and then all of a sudden in the summer there's baseball, and you're going to baseball, it's seasonal, because if you're allergic to the pollen or the grass, you're not playing baseball in December, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
So
True.
it's always seasonal, and but environmentally seasonal, right? I mean, you're not, if you're not having pollen at certain times, you're not gonna, if you're allergic to pollen, you're not gonna have the issue.
So I love this question this person just asked, and I'm always wondering the same thing. Is there a real difference between Zyrtec and Claritin? Or are they both pretty much the same thing?
So I think there's a variety of medications, right? So Flonase, up until about maybe 3 years ago, used to be prescription only. Now you can get it at Costco. You can get it anywhere over the counter. That's the spray in the nose that people hate doing, okay? But the caveat that most physicians don't tell you is it takes about 2 weeks to start working, okay? And the reason why Zyrtec and those other ones, they develop two different kinds, all right? So you have the day ones. They're all Benadryl, okay? They're all Benadryl. But Benadryl makes a higher percentage of people. It's like 85% of people makes them sleepy, except for my daughter. I tried that on a plane once. That didn't work. Yeah. My 3-year-old does not like Benadryl. So the Benadryl makes you drowsy. So you have these other ones that were produced that basically are non-drowsy, but you have to take them in the morning. Like anybody who's taken them will tell you, it's like, bing, you kind of wake up. Now, there's something that you have to be careful with those, because it does wake you up, right? There's a couple of these antihistamines that are very dangerous, right? So Claritin, Zyrtec, those all make your blood pressure go up, right? Because they accelerate you a little bit.
Right.
Now, you have Flonase, which is a steroid, right? And it takes time. It's not going to clear it up. You put it in after 2 weeks, it starts to get the nose cavity kind of under par. But there's another one that works immediately, which is called Afrin, right? I'm sure you guys are familiar with that.
Yeah, you can get addicted to that real quick. That
well,
helps
because it's phenylephrine, right? It's phenylephrine. It's an alpha-1, so therefore it constricts all the vessels, right? But if you measure your blood pressure and it's 120 over 80, and then you take Afrin, it's going to be like 200 over 110.
Mm-hmm.
So the reason why I'm mentioning this is because there's other products that are considered heart safe, right? So just like they tell all congestive heart failure patients, you can't really take those, right? and you can't take Afrin, you can't take Sudafed, but they have one. It's called Quercetin, or Quercetin. I'm not sure, and it's got a heart healthy label on it at CVS, Walgreens, Walmart, everywhere. And that one doesn't make your blood pressure go up. Okay. They found that it's not as effective. People who don't have heart failure, it's not as effective as the other ones. It's not, for some reason, it's very successful in heart failure patients. But if you don't have heart failure, it's not going to be nearly as good as Dayquil or, Zyrtec, Claritin. I would stick to those, guys. People get sick and they get that and they start Mucinex. Mucinex is a brand, okay? And if you pay attention to this, it is basically you're buying Sudafed on steroids. It is 3 or 4 times the normal dose of Sudafed. It's not good for you. It can make your blood pressure go through the roof, give you headaches, everything. And all it is Sudafed is normally 600 milligrams and Mucinex is 1,800 to 2,400 per dose. So be careful with these medications because they have a lot of side effects. Mostly it's like increasing blood pressure.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I've always wondered about those two. That clears things up, Doc. I appreciate it. So 2 questions for you, because somebody was asking a while ago, how do you know if you need to go to the ER? Can your allergies get that bad that you need to go to your ER and see a doctor?
Well, usually, sinus infections are brutal. Okay. If anybody's ever had one, when people come in, they just say, oh, I have a sinus infection. And they're just like, they have sniffles. A sinus infection feels like someone is taking a knife and stabbing you like right through the cheek. I mean, it is the most horrendous and terrible thing. I mean, kidney stone's probably worse, I'll be honest. But
right.
it is very painful. It's usually it's only time, right? So most of the books will say, if it's 2-day history of sniffles, that's, you don't treat it. Now, if they have the stabbing pain, you will. But if you get to like 2-3 weeks, then, if it's really bad and you can't breathe at night, then usually we'll attach an antibiotic. But it's supposed to be 2 weeks, into it, which comes quickly. Don't get me wrong. But you'll definitely know the difference between a sinus infection, right? I mean, that's really bad. And that's why some people come in. The other thing is the excessive cough. I mean, the post-nasal drip that people were having is so bad that they can even start coughing up blood. You have tiny little vessels, right? And you're coughing and you're coughing and you're coughing and you're coughing and you're coughing. And sooner or later, you're going to cough up blood. I mean, it's not
Harper, my 5-year-old, she'll start that drainage will make her start coughing so much she won't be able to stop coughing, and she'll usually just throw up because she just can't stop gagging.
Yeah. It's bad. I mean, so I mean, absolutely. But remember, there's other triggers, right? So the allergy can trigger previous smokers, COPD, right? Asthmatics, right? And so are they coming in just for allergies sometimes? Usually not, right? But some people are really proactive, and I get them, and they're like, hey, listen, this is the time of year. I need to get a Decadron, like a steroid shot. If not, this is going to be really bad. And obviously we oblige. I mean, those people have been, they know that. They know where they're going. You see those
steroid shots are awesome, man. If your ears are hurting from the infection or whatever, it will dry you up. Plus, I know my wife loves it. It gives me this energy boost. I'm in there vacuuming.
Oh, yeah. You can't. So the first day I always tell people, make sure you take something to go to bed because you're going to be up all night.
I'll be, my mind's everywhere. But yeah, if you want to get something done,
scatterbrain, for sure.
That steroid is an energy booster.
Not
to gross you guys out that are watching, but you're talking about, nose and drainage. So if somebody has drainage that's red, green, all the Christmas colors, does that mean they have an infection, or does that not necessarily mean an infection?
So, we go from the dry, to wet, dry to wet, the allergies. This year, my son and I suffer from nosebleeds. Like, I mean, ever since, because of Arizona and stuff like that. And when we moved here, the kind of weren't as often initially. But during allergy season, just because you're constant, I hate, feeling stuffy. So I'm constantly blowing my nose, right? It drives me nuts, right? So, this past year and a half, I mean, what happens is you have just little micro tear of a capillary and you're so stuffed, right? That it'll take an hour or two and it stops and it's a little bit, like a little bit of blood. But when you blow it out, it looks, blood and water, right? It looks a lot worse. But it's pretty gnarly. Yeah. I mean, The color can mean infection, right? But it just depends. Are you cleaning it out?
Yeah.
I tried that nasal.
Most of the time when I get, or think I'm getting an infection, it'll start out clear and be, totally clear. But when I start getting Christmas colors, I'm starting to wonder what's going on. Red,
that's
green.
the time to come in. Yeah, that's the time to come in, because it may just be that you're blowing your nose, but it could be a pretty big infection. That's usually a couple weeks in, and then antibiotics would be appropriate at that point for sure.
So guys, if you're watching, he said we can treat you if you need it. I mean, there's so many different little things or avenues he can do to, take some relief, make you feel better. So talking about allergic reactions, somebody had asked, there's two different reactions, I believe. There's the anaphylactic reaction, and then there's the vasovagal. Is that right? How you say it?
So vasovagal is when you kind of like faint. There's angioedema, which is like the tongue. People on lisinopril. Lisinopril is a blood pressure med. It's a first line therapy for 99% of Americans with hypertension. It can cause, and it doesn't matter when. It could be 10 years into taking it, 1 month into taking it, 2 days into taking it, one day or the other, your tongue will swell up. So anaphylaxis is basically, it's constricting more than it's multiple places, right? And usually that leads to the fact that you kind of can't breathe on your own. Okay. Now, what is the most common to be scared of? I would say peanut allergies, right? I mean, society has done a phenomenal job of being conscientious about it. Schools are conscientious about it. Everybody's conscientious about it. And we've gotten comfortable. I mean, I feel like we've gotten comfortable, right? So countless times we're closer than the house. So, people stop to us and we're giving them that epinephrine, which of course that's what we're there for,
Right.
But time goes on and you think you got the circle well, people know. And when you have these serious anaphylactic reactions, that EpiPen really is the savior. I mean, even later in life, women, put it in the clutch, if you need it, you need it, moms, if the kid needs it, you have to be conscientious. It comes in a 2-pack, and I always write it with refills. So like, throw one in each car, in the purse, and always have extra. I mean, we did have an issue when it got like super expensive, right? Pharma guy or whatever his name was. But now it's covered again, and it's something that you need to have. And here's another thing: if you did use it, bring your kid in to get checked out. Okay, that dose lasts 10 minutes to an hour. Usually it does prevent it, but if it comes back, you want to be watched.
Right.
For sure.
Back when I was doing radiology, doing MRI scans all the time, we'd have to get our IVs for the patients.
Mm-hmm.
And I always remembered, I was always so worried to, give the IV contrast because you don't want them to have that anaphylactic reaction and go into shock.
Oh, yeah.
So it's really nerve-wracking. Before you inject any contrast, you're on high alert,
Well, yeah, I mean, and the other thing is that the reaction, anaphylaxis doesn't necessarily happen. It's not like you put a peanut in your mouth and it happens. Like, you could not know. You're sitting down and all of a sudden you can't breathe. Maybe it was an ant. Maybe it was a wasp. And, you don't always feel it, right? Yeah. So you give an EpiPen, you resolve the problem for a minute, but we look at your whole body. And if you got a thing sticking out here that you're not feeling because your adrenaline's through the roof, it's just going to come right back.
Right.
So you got to be careful.
Right. So I guess you have to have a prescription. So you're saying you do have to have a prescription to get an EpiPen, right?
Well,
you have to write it.
Different states are different. In Arizona, because of the scorpions, you did not need to have a prescription, but you could only get one. Like every 3 months or something. So every state's slightly different. Once they took over and it got expensive, I know the government stopped giving them.
Right.
You had to have a prescription now, just like they used to give away the Tylenol. Medicare and Medicaid could go to the pharmacy and ask for Tylenol, and now I believe in Texas now you need a prescription in order for it to be dispensed, even though it's supposed to be free.
Right. So that might be something for the moms watching, like he was saying, to try to get a prescription.
Countless. I have countless patients will come in, a Saturday. Hey, we used it last week. I couldn't get into the primary, and nothing against the primary care physicians in Lumberton. I had this discussion with, about a cardiology, group in general. Guys, we're growing fast, and they're working as hard as they can and inundated, but it takes time to get in.
For sure.
We're definitely underserved in the primary care, in the primary care section. They pretty much can no longer do sick call. I mean, just because they're so full on regular things that it's hard for them to even get people in. So if you're having issues, there's nothing more important than life. Doesn't matter if it's 3 a.m. and you finally put them down and you're gonna leave your husband with them, or vice versa. I would come in for a refill. I mean, that's a big
Peace
one.
Of mind. Peace of mind.
Yeah,
sure.
that's I had a neighbor, and I thought I would never need to worry about peanut stuff, because my kids, and then I got a newsletter that a family came in with. Hey, and you know what? It was fun. We looked up new recipes, and the mom came over and showed us recipes, and it was actually, very, very cool, to be honest, to be part of it. And I'm a physician, and even I'm oblivious. I was oblivious, before that.
So curious. Summer's here. Let's say you get stung by a bee or a wasp. Can an EpiPen help you with that as well?
Absolutely.
If you're having
okay. I mean, you can't breathe, and you put that. You put it right in your thigh, and you can breathe. There is nothing more beautiful in life when you're suffocating, and then all of a sudden you get a breath.
All right, yeah, I think I'm gonna have to get you to come see you so I can get a prescription to keep one of these. You're making me worry now. I need to start prepping.
Well, I mean, none of my kids are allergic to anything like that, but we have one at the house specifically for our neighbor.
Yeah. That's nice to have.
Something happens across the street, and you're seeing it. I'm running out with the pen.
Right. So, just curious. I like a little bit of spicy food. Let's say I go to the Mexican restaurant, and this is for me. If I accidentally get a little jalapeno, it feels like my throat. I don't know if it's just a little. It does.
That's
it's not
burning. That's different. I have a Mexican wife, so like I can't talk about like this stuff. Like if I say something is too spicy, and she's over there putting on more habanero sauce.
She's gonna even put more on there, man.
Oh yeah, she puts no. Don't that's a burning, okay? Yeah. But either way, if you feel uncomfortable, I would stop.
Yeah, it's weird. It feels like my throat's constricting. It's not deadly or anything. Man, I notice a difference.
The first time I ate at my wife's house in Mexico, it was not E. coli. It was the spiciness. Like that if you ever want to do a colon prep, you just hang out with them and eat their spicy food. It is unbelievable.
Right. So you grew up in Argentina, right?
Yeah. So, but we don't do spicy stuff.
That's what I was wondering. So
yeah, we're Italian. We do herbs and Italian herbs and steak with salt and pepper. I mean, we don't need to do.
That's why you're always eating a steak, right?
That's why I would be disowned by my family if I didn't.
Have you gotten used to spicy food, or you still don't like it?
Yeah, no, I can eat it, but my father can't even have anything over pepper. He can't.
Don't worry, we won't tell your wife.
No, it's good. I can handle. No, I actually there's some things that are enjoyable, but once it crosses that threshold, where you're just like, right. I don't. That doesn't excite me.
So, a person just asked: is allergies more common in children? Is that a thing or just a myth?
What is an allergy, right? So what is an allergy? I think that's let's get into that, right? I mean, we're going around little specific things, but so there's 4 types of allergies, right? There's type 1 through 4, all right? So type 1, it's immediate. It's called the type 1 anaphylaxis hypersensitivity reaction. That is almost every time you know exactly why you're having the reaction, okay? Now, if you're getting, if it's an ant, you may not know which ant, but you're like, usually it's not one ant, right? You got bit by ants, so therefore you know. Okay, that's immediate. It's type 1. It's like that. Type 2 and 3, they're slightly different, and a lot of people will relate to this. 2 and 3, there's different examples because of, even though they kind of do the same thing, there's a different reason why they do it. 1 is like nickel. Well, 2 and 3, one of them is like nickel, right? Where you get a cheap earring or a cheap ring, right? Like something, out of the Cracker Jack box or something that was metal. You put it on there, and then you have a reaction to it, right?
Right.
There's some blood reactions to it, if you get a transfusion. But essentially, there are things that it's a time thing that takes like 3 to 7 days, right? Those two, and that's 3. But one of them forms immune complexes underneath the skin, and the other one, it's not an immune complex underneath the skin. It's more systemic. That's what the difference between 2 and 3. Okay, but all of these things, your body the first time. So you're not allergic to a peanut the first time you eat a peanut. Your body considered that foreign and started to make antibodies to it, right? That's why if you put that nickel on there, you put that on there, it takes 5 days because that's how long it takes to mount the immune response. Okay. So you ate a peanut when you were 6, you don't eat it again, you're 10, you eat a peanut, all of a sudden you have that reaction. That was the second time. Nobody has ever had a reaction to a peanut the first time. Okay. Nobody. The fourth one, you ever get checked for tuberculosis? When they put the little,
yeah, it's not too fun, but yes.
Little thing and it sticks up. Okay. So that is called a delayed hypersensitivity reaction. Minimum 14 days later. That's your hives. That's your rashes for the most part. That's why when people come in and they have a rash, a dermatologist would be, try to, oh, that is this, and give it a fancy name. And in the end, it really doesn't matter because they're all treated with prednisone, right? Every rash is treated with prednisone. And you'll never find out, right? Because it's been 2 weeks, right? How do you possibly know all the things you put in around your body? You went to a girlfriend's house, right? Females or men. You used their lotion that's scented 2 weeks ago. You're not going to remember. You changed the soap, you could probably remember. You changed the laundry detergent, you can remember. You were on vacation and you did laundry, at the shop, and you used a different brand. But it's all 2 weeks later, right? And your body is making an immune response to it, right? And now from there on out, instead of 2 weeks, it'll take 4 or 5 days. So all the hives that you have, all of them, they're usually never immediate. Never.
Right.
They're usually a delayed hypersensitivity because your body made, the immune response go up. Now you can get a hive right here, but if you broke out completely, that was probably 4 or 5 days ago. Mm-hmm. There's exceptions to every rule. I mean, this is right. I mean, some people break out, immediately from some stuff. I'm not saying that that's not possible, but the majority of them, it means that it's a few days away.
Yeah. Me and my wife used to argue all the time with the kids when they were in diapers because I would be trying to pick up Huggies, but she would say that would give them a rash, a reaction. And she wanted me to get Pampers because she said that one did not do that. So maybe she was right.
Diapers, it doesn't matter how expensive they are or cheap they are. Whichever one works for your child, that's the one you got to get.
So we ended up with Pampers. So happy wife, happy life. But
my son couldn't use anything but Pampers. My daughter was actually pretty lucky. She had eczema, but she really didn't have the diaper rash. We could use anything. And I'm a Costco man, so I had to use Costco,
Right, for sure. For sure. But one last question before we let you go, Doc. Somebody just said, what is hay fever? They hear that term a lot. So what is hay fever?
So hay fever is the original allergic rhinitis. It's, they kind of say it just because you put all the symptoms together and then you put up a cause, right? So like they'll call it hay fever even though it's allergic rhinitis, if you tell them, hey, I have mold in the house, right? And I have sniffles. It's like, oh, it's hay fever. I mean, it's really the same diagnosis, but for some reason, some people throw the name out there at different times. But it's allergic rhinitis, which just means it's mostly up here, right? Most common things are mold. Believe it or not, your drapes, okay? We confuse it with seasonal allergy because it's not cold outside and you're doing a spring cleaning and you're hitting your drapes and all of a sudden, blah, you know what I mean?
Right.
Even though you clean all the time, I mean, I feel like we clean them all the time and vacuum them, but there's always, a time that you didn't do it. Pet, cats, dogs, the dander, is another one. Pollen, of course, but bedding, your bedding furniture. Some people will grab that cold comforter that's been in a bag for months and then put a new top on it. But that itself, is a good idea to steam it before you put it on. And if you don't, it will cause problem for months. That cloud comforter, what it's called,
right.
Goose downs.
Right.
Those
That's right.
those hold a lot in there. So it's a good idea to get that clean before you use it. Most of us are all guilty of not doing that.
Yeah, for
you
sure.
know. And then of course when the summer comes out, so do like cockroaches and bugs and critters. And it's not the bug; it's actually their saliva. It's like, when they walk, their saliva, if it gets on a cup or something, can make a lot of people allergic because it's going to crawl around inside of the furniture. You touch that, and then you touch your face. Not knowing that they were there, obviously, and their saliva can be allergic.
Okay. Well, Doc, before we let you go, summer's here. Like I said, there's going to be more things than allergies. There's accidents. Kids are outside playing on their bikes, their skateboards. Let everybody know that's watching that at all of our Altus locations, we do have a free medical screening. Tell them about that.
Yeah, just like if you're worried about something, say you got bit by something. I mean, this is the best example. You can come to us and, we can check you out, since we're on this. We can check you out, and if, even just do a skin check. I mean, plenty of people will come in, that they are not married, they were out, and, he thinks he got bit by a deer tick or something. Hey, I need your help, and we can help out. I mean, right. Also, if you're coughing up blood, you don't know if it's serious or not. Come on in. I mean, we give you an honest opinion, and if we need to check you in and do something, you do, or anything of the sort. I mean, we're there for you. We're there for the community. We're there 24/7. We're willing, we're able, and we really do enjoy helping the community out.
Well, Doc, I appreciate you joining us. We'll see you next time, guys. And be sure to write in the comments what you want the Doc to talk about next time, our topics. We love to see your comments, your suggestions, your thoughts. But anyway, Doc, we'll see you later. You be careful, all right?
Take it easy.
All right, man. Guys, thanks so much for tuning in. And just like he said, we're here 24/7 for all emergencies. There's nothing that we can't handle. If you can't get into your doctor and you have an emergency and you just need that peace of mind, come see us. We have that free medical screening. And I know, like he said, a lot of the doctors out there, primary care doctors, are so overwhelmed. They're so busy. And if you can't wait, we can take care of any problems, any emergencies, anything that's more than urgent. We got your back, and we love to help you guys and take care of our community. So we're here for you. But anyway, thanks for tuning in. If you liked it, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Come back. We love to do our DocTalk sessions with you, a live Q&A. So if there's any topics you want us to cover next time, please write it in the comments below, and we'll make that happen for you guys. But anyway, stay safe. Summer's here. Kids are about to get out. So I know all you parents are happy, maybe. I don't know. We'll see how long it lasts. They'll drive you crazy real quick. But be safe, be careful, and we're here for all those emergencies when they happen. We'll see you guys. Be careful.